Chapter 3. Almost Castaways. Evidence is increasing that children have memories from the womb. Several researchers have recorded brainwaves in fetuses. This verifies the reality of preborn brain activity, but does not explain the kind of consciousness the preborn child is experiencing. In the book The Secret Life of the Unborn Child, world-famous conductor Boris Brott says he recognized music his mother, a viola player, had practiced while she was pregnant with him. Would not a far more traumatic event, such as being aborted, likewise be remembered? Gianna. I was born during a saline abortion. Gianna Jessen is an almost castaway who has become a prominent spokesperson. She has made headlines as a real-life survivor of an attempted saline abortion. In 2008, Gianna spoke in Victoria, Australia, to an enraptured audience who gave her a standing ovation. The following is from her speech.
I am adopted, and my biological mother was 17, and so was my father. She was 7.5 months pregnant when she decided to go to Planned Parenthood, which is the largest abortion provider in the world, and they counseled her to have a late-term saline abortion, which is a saline salt solution that is injected into the mother's womb. The baby gulps that solution and it burns the baby inside and out, and she is to deliver a dead baby within 24 hours. To everyone's great shock and surprise, I did not arrive dead, but alive. I was born alive April 6, 1977, in a Los Angeles abortion clinic. What is fantastic about the perfect timing of my arrival is that the abortionist was not on duty yet, so he wasn't given the opportunity to continue on with his plan to have control over my life. His plan was death. And so I was delivered alive. Like I have already said, I should be blind, I should be burned, I should be dead, and yet I am not. You know what is fantastic vindication is the fact that the abortionist signed my birth certificate, so I know who he is. And it also said, for any skeptic, on my medical records, born during a saline abortion. Ha, they didn't win.
Gianna survived and thrives in spite of the fact that her traumatic birth gave her cerebral palsy. She says, and I quote, I am weaker than most of you, but this is my sermon. And what a small price to pay to be able to blaze through the world as I do and offer hope. Unquote. Her voice is a clarion call on behalf of all souls who leave heaven, hoping we will receive them, nurture them, and love them. Dr. David Chamberlain, empowered by the truth. Among the case studies reported by Dr. David Chamberlain was a discovery by Canadian psychotherapist Andrew Feldmar when he was training in England. Among his patients, Feldmar treated 4 young people who had each attempted suicide a staggering 5 times in 5 years. Surprisingly, each attempt came at about the same time each year, as related by Dr. Chamberlain.
This improbable pattern led Feldmar to interview the mothers of the 4 young persons. The mothers confidentially revealed dates on which they had unsuccessfully attempted to eliminate their respective unborn children by abortion. The youth were unaware, consciously, that they had been victims of abortion attempts. Yet shockingly, the anniversary of each of 5 annual suicide attempts was on or near the very date that their mother had attempted to end their unborn child's life. Furthermore, the style of elimination was significant. If the mother used mechanical means in attempting to abort, the child attempted suicide by mechanical means. If the mother used chemical means to end her child's life, the child used chemical means to attempt suicide. Feldmar convinced each mother to reveal the date and the style of attempted abortion to their child. After each of these 4 young people learned they had been victims of attempted abortion and that the date and style of the attempt for each person corresponded with the date and style of their 5 suicide attempts, these persons never again felt compelled to act out their deadly memories. They never again attempted suicide. They were empowered by learning the truth.
Della. Fear led to an abortion attempt on me. Dr. Chamberlain and other researchers, in order to understand the nature of preborn thoughts, have turned to hypnosis. One such case reported by Dr. Chamberlain was that of a 45-year-old Della, who had grown up suffering from painful anxieties whenever she felt herself being criticized or judged, or sometimes even just observed. As a result, she spent as much time as possible alone at home. In a hypnosis session, she described her birth experience.
I was conceived at the height of the Great Depression. There were already 2 children in the family, and father was out of work. Fear and financial pressure led Mother to do everything possible to abort me. Mother rode the cyclone at Coney Island over and over again. She threw herself down the stairs twice and experimented with various home remedies, all to no avail. When I was born, I had a twisted arm and some red birthmarks, a big one on my left leg. I could see myself in the hospital in the delivery room on a table. I was cold. They are just talking quietly, the doctor and my mother. I'm cold and I wish they would cover me up. It was a struggle to get out. I have big birthmarks and I was born wrong, the doctor said in great disgust. Look at her. I just want to be wrapped up. There was something wrong with me. He doesn't like me. I did something wrong. I just felt wrong. I was wrong. I was hypersensitive all my life, had fear associated with driving on the freeways, dreadful feelings, a kind of paralysis or inability to function. It's a very sickening sensation, very terrifying. I feel it in the pores of my skin, in my legs. I see myself crippled, cut off, in danger.
The sad result of her trauma was that Della was plagued throughout her life with anxiety symptoms comparable to post-traumatic stress disorder experienced by some war veterans. Iris. Nobody really wanted me. Another of Dr. Chamberlain's patients, Iris, had suffered much of her life with a chronic, very frightening feeling. Dr. Chamberlain helped her identify the cause and then overcome her fears through hypnosis-induced memory recovery, in which Iris reported the following.
It's too sad. I already remember it. I was hardly formed and my mom is using some kind of remedy to wash me away. It feels real hot. I know she is trying to get me out of there. I'm just a little blob. I don't know how I know, but I know. My aunt seems to be giving my mom directions. I can hear her voice and another woman in the background. She is not supposed to get pregnant. She doesn't know me. It didn't work either. It had a strong, harsh smell, almost a disinfectant smell, like ammonia. Strong, a vile, strong smell. I can even see where I was, too. I was way up there, just teeny. I know nobody really wanted me then, but I was determined. I was a fighter even then.
D. My mother was trying to get me out. A pioneer in research demonstrating fetal knowledge while in the womb is David Cheek, MD, obstetrician, gynecologist, and hypnotherapist. One of his patients was a woman named Dee, who was being treated for depression, crippling back pain, and recurrent dreams that her mother was trying to abort her with a button hook. Dr. Cheek describes what happened when he took Dee back through regressive hypnosis to the experience of being in the womb.
Appearing very agitated and breathing rapidly, she said, "It's before I'm born. My father is shouting, 'I'm going to kill you!'" A few seconds later, Dee began screaming. She pulled her legs up to her chest as though trying to get away from something very frightening. She became more relaxed again and was able to talk. I saw that button hook coming up at me. I knew my mother was trying to get me out.
The mother verified in writing to Dr. Cheek the father's behavior and the button hook abortion attempt in about the 6th month of gestation. She emphasized that her daughter had no way of knowing about these incidents. An interesting sidelight to this case is that Dee's back pain vanished after this traumatic memory was retrieved and verified. Darlene, the truth mattered more than anything. After speaking at a conference, I met Darlene, a beautiful woman in her golden years. I noticed her immediately as she approached my table where my books were on display. Picking up a copy of the Castaways, she commented that she had read it and loved it, and then startled me with, quote, "I was almost a castaway," unquote. We became friends and met together several times as she revealed to me incredible details of her life as a victim of attempted abortion.
While pursuing my PhD in psychology, I was attending a training session in hypnotherapy, wherein I volunteered for age regression. A stunning, remarkable, and I might add life-changing event occurred as a result of the age regression. First induction was experienced, and I relaxed and allowed myself to listen closely to the instructions. I remember being asked to gradually go back in time to the time of my birth and just beyond it while still in the womb. I allowed myself to slowly drift back in time. I began to feel anxious. I had experienced seizures during my toddler years, and something was beginning to creep into my awareness that I didn't like. The trainer said it was normal to be frightened because I was more and more vulnerable, but she reassured me that I would be fine. I was not fine. She said to just take a deep breath, relax, and let yourself drift backwards in time. Backwards, teenager, toddler, infant, and now you are at the moment just prior to your birth. I followed the instructions and drifted back in time, and as I did so, more conflict surfaced. I felt incredible pain, physically and emotionally, and began screaming. I felt like I was going to die. I felt like an electric cattle prod was poked into my spine, and I recognized the pain as something I had experienced for years, as painful nocturnal seizures had racked my body every few minutes all night long. Yet here it was happening also at pre-birth. As I sobbed and drew my legs up close to me in a fetal position, I heard myself cry out, "No, no, no," over and over again. I pulled my legs as tight to my body as I could and shook my head in protest, while still crying out, "No, no, no," to what the trainer wanted me to do, go through birth. I could see my young father and mother as I could see their hearts and intentions, weaknesses and strengths, and conflicts with regard to me. My father was saying, "We simply don't have the money to take care of a child." I saw my mother weaken with my father's resolve, and I noticed that she was afraid of him. At that moment, it was crystal clear to me that were I to be born, I would be on my own, taking care of my inner needs, as they would not be able to relate to my heart. It seemed as though I knew the outcome of things and had insight into personality and character. It was so clear, and I could see and hear what was going on outside of the womb. Somehow that was comforting to me. I saw a stern, resentful man who was poor and didn't want a child. He was telling Mother that they had no means of support, no home, no place to stay, no way to take care of a child. I saw Mother not wanting to upset him, so she went along with what he wanted to do. During those visualizations, I felt enormous pain in my spine and back and said aloud, "They will kill me. No, no, I can't be born." My sober-minded professional self couldn't make any sense of any of it. I just wanted it to be over. Too much physical pain, complicated messages, and a deep protest within myself to what was happening. The training session ended, and I just as quickly forgot about the entire episode until a family gathering a few years later. It must have been Mother's Day, as my family was all together at my mother's house, and we were playing games and just having a lot of fun. Something came up about hypnotherapy, and someone asked if it could be used for weight reduction. I remember being just about 4 or 5 feet away from where Mother was sitting when I had decided to share the training experience with everyone and all the things that transpired. I thought the family would laugh and joke about it, and it would add even more levity to the day when I said, "You wouldn't believe what happened to me during training. I was age regressed back to birth, and I pulled my legs up and refused to be born." Mother's retort was, "Yes, You were very stubborn. It took 36 hours for you to decide to be born. I felt like I had just been hit with a bucket of cold water. Every particle of my being became alert. Nuances were recorded instantly, and it was as if things were in slow motion, being translated by my mind, compared with other data that was contained in my repository of knowledge. I turned to focus on her face completely and deeply. As I did so, our eyes locked, and she said, "Well, I guess this is as good a time as any to tell you. I tried to abort you." I saw the information float across the room, striking each person as I witnessed the many levels of disbelief and disavowal as I sat there dumbstruck for a little while. What space of time, I know not. Inside of me, tumblers were beginning to fall into place, unlocking vast stores of information heretofore hidden from me. These precious words and that moment of confession was as precious as a golden treasure of insurmountable value. I loved her for her courageous gift to me. She gave me the truth as sweet as the nectar of God's own fruit, and everything in my 35 years of life began to fall into place. Yes, 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 I could hear myself saying deep inside. That is the reason for the seizures that have plagued me throughout my life. The excruciating pain I have suffered for so long was now explained to me in those few simple words of confession. Perhaps no other experience in my life has prepared me to understand intelligence, and especially pre-birth intelligence, more than this event. As an unborn baby in the womb, as a fetus, I could think as an intelligent adult, and I had extraordinary powers of discernment. I could see through things. As I saw my dad, I could see his nature, character, strengths, weaknesses, and still while in the womb, I turned my gaze to Mother, who was transparent to me. I had the ability to reason, use logic, and appreciate truth and reality. Wow, what an astounding revelation that was, and how it answered so many questions for me. While yet a young girl, pre-kindergarten, I did not know that I had survived an abortion attempt. What I did know is that I began to experience symptoms of something strange at about 18 months of age. I recall falling to the ground daily and moaning, crying out for help, grabbing my back where it felt like someone was sticking a cattle prod into my spine, and electrical currents traveled up and down my spine in a wave of pain. While on the ground, I would cry out for help as I had no control over my legs and arms, and I felt like I was going to die. It only lasted for a few seconds or minutes, but it felt like eternity to me at the time. Even though I was a small, frightened child experiencing some kind of bizarre seizure, we managed it within the family because we were poor and didn't go to doctors back then. We didn't even have one. As suddenly as they had come upon me, they vanished by first grade. So I got through school and undergraduate school without them. No doubt this was a merciful time, and I was being blessed. I barely had a memory of the early experience and gave it no thought until the torturous pain began again in my early 20s. I graduated from college and began a new phase of my life, just as bright and hopeful as everything that had been. It suddenly turned upside down. I entered into a hellish world following an emergency appendectomy. I was released from the hospital to recover at my apartment. It was that night in my bed something struck me with such force as to catapult me out of bed onto the floor of my apartment, and finding myself unable to utter only garbled words, with legs and arms flailing out of control, and experiencing unbelievable intense pain in the spine radiating up to the base of my skull. I thought I was having a heart attack and was going to die. I tried to pound on my apartment wall to signal my boyfriend, who lived next door, that I was in trouble. From that day until last year, 2011, I had nocturnal seizures every night and every time I took a nap or fell asleep any place. The poor people on airplanes that sat next to me had to be warned that I could hit them in the face during a seizure if I fell asleep. They appreciated the warning because it happened a number of times. The more difficult aspect of social embarrassment is the fact that I cry out in pain while feeling totally out of control. I frankly do not know what is happening to my body at the time, except it feels like I am being tortured. The pain is so intense that over the years I have thought I wouldn't be able to endure them if they lasted one more second. The pain in my spine was excruciating and felt like electrocution. I honestly do not know how I got through those years of pain while running a business. I was blessed, I do know that. I have a strong conviction that the seizures were related to the abortion attempt. Hypnosis played a part in allowing me to see how desperate my parents were. And as I viewed their circumstances through hypnotic induction, I felt the connection of the abortion attempt to my bodily pain. My mother's confession ratified it to me. After I found out that Mother had attempted to abort me and that I survived, I was relieved to have that information so as to make sense of my many physical problems. From then on, my mind has been at ease because the truth mattered more than anything. I discovered that incredible pain can be endured if you understand the greater meaning behind it. My parents were just normal, poor, weak people struggling to survive. My lifetime of pain has molded and shaped me into a better person than I would have been without it. No doubt about it.